An autopsy on music superstar Prince has been performed, but tonight, toxicology results are still pending. And Prince is being honored by cities across the country, and right here in the Valley, a tribute is in the works for tonight. We'll tell you where that will be.
The weekend is here and temperatures are coming down. We do have a little bit of a wind event tonight, but possibly some rain in the Southland next week. Details you cannot miss coming up in my complete forecast.
First in the Coachella Valley, you're watching KMIR TV Palm Springs, where the news comes first. KMIR News starts now.
Good afternoon. This is KMIR News First at 4:30, also streaming live on KMIR.com. I'm Thalia Hayden. First at 4:30, the investigation into the death of pop superstar Prince. Thousands continue to gather outside Paisley Park, the studio and estate where he was found yesterday. Jay Gray has the very latest.
Fans and flowers, balloons and banners line the fence outside of Paisley Park. Thousands drawn here to remember and honor Prince, a pop star and cultural icon whose music was the soundtrack for a generation.
It's overwhelming. I mean, I'm still numb about the whole thing.
As fans around the world deal with their shock and sadness for the first time today, investigators shared details about events the morning of his death.
Staff members from Paisley Park had been unable to contact Prince yesterday morning and went to check on him. They found him unresponsive and called 911.
An autopsy was performed today. The medical examiner says results won't be available for several weeks. But we do now know when paramedics were called to Paisley Park yesterday, it was the second time in less than a week that friends or colleagues found Prince unresponsive. The first coming after what was his final concert in Atlanta, when his private jet on the trip back to Minnesota made an emergency landing and he was rushed to an Illinois hospital.
The thing that really bothers me about it is the Prince I know was like super healthy, vegan, wasn't an abuser of drugs, wasn't an abuser of alcohol. He lived right.
A tribute to that life splashed in his signature purple on bridges and buildings across the country.
It's so surreal. I think he's gone.
Leaving behind a legacy that echoes around the world. Jay Gray, KMIR News.
President Obama said today the death of Prince is a remarkable loss. The president is in Great Britain in part to honor Queen Elizabeth during her 90th birthday celebration, but he's also there to talk business with British Prime Minister David Cameron about Britain's future with the European Union and trade agreements with the United States. The president took time to say a few words about Prince.
It's a remarkable loss, and I'm staying at Winfield House, the U.S. Ambassador's residence. It so happens our ambassador has a turntable, and so this morning we played Purple Rain and Delirious just to get warmed up before we left the house for important bilateral meetings like this.
Musician and Prince's close friend Sheila E. talked about the music icon on MSNBC. She remembered her friend and collaborator as a driven but generous man.
He was a gentleman. He was funny. A lot of you didn't get to see the funny side of him. He's very competitive, a perfectionist, and he enjoyed music. It was his life. We would bring, toys to the kids with cancer. We were always doing something. He was always wanting to give back to kids.
Now, Prince's home state of Minnesota continued to pay tribute to the late singer by putting one of his most talked about outfits on display. The superstar's famous Purple Rain suit is on public display at the Minnesota History Center in St. Paul. Prince wore it when he performed the hit song Purple Rain in the 1984 drama by the same name. The superstar went on to receive an Oscar for Best Original Song Score for Purple Rain in 1985. Here at home, Prince will be remembered tonight with a dance party celebrating his life in music. The main attraction will be at Agua Caliente Casino Resort Spa, where our Kitty Alvarado is live to tell us all about it. Kitty.
Well, if you've been watching people celebrate the life and music of Prince at dance parties and wish you were right there with them, your wish has come true. The lounge at Agua Caliente Resort Spa is having a dance party celebrating the life and music of Prince called a Royal Celebration of a Life in Music. And this is going to be a spectacular party you don't want to miss. It starts at 9 o'clock, but get here early. There's a lot to do and see, many things paying tribute right here to Prince. So come on down if you love Prince and celebrate and party like it's 1999. Put on some purple and it's going to be a wonderful time. Now, coming up on the KMIR News at 5 o'clock, something you don't want to miss. They have a very special private tribute to Prince, and it's in this very room I'm in. You will be the first and only people to see it. It is unbelievable. It took my breath away and actually brought a tear to my eye, so you don't want to miss it. Live from the Agua Caliente Casino Resort and Spa, Kitty Alvarado, KMIR News.
All right, Kitty, thank you very much. Well, a longtime Palm Desert business owner and musician has died at the age of 60. Randy Hewitson owned Musicians Outlet for decades and helped shape the local music scene. KMIR's Angela Monroe has more.
Flowers are appearing as a tribute outside Musicians Outlet in Palm Desert. Randy Hewitson opened the store nearly 30 years ago. His son posted on Facebook that his father died this morning. Described by friends as a great guitar player, Randy was heavily influential in the local music scene.
He was loved by everybody. Everybody knew Randy. In fact, last year when Musicians Outlet burnt down, we held a benefit party for him.
Last year, the community rallied behind Randy because he always rallied behind them.
He had a making of music organization that he donated $30,000 of musical equipment to schools.
He supported music in schools, helped the local music community, and would lend a hand to a friend.
He loaned me an amp for free. That's the kind of guy he was. He would go out of his way. He would do extra stuff. And he was just really a good guy.
Online, the tributes keep pouring in. Friends, fans, and families sharing their stories and love as they mourn the passing of a pillar of the local community. In Palm Desert, Angela Monroe, KMIR News.
All right, it looks like we're shaping up for another windy weekend. KMIR Chief Meteorologist Ginger Jeffries is here to tell us more. Is that correct, Ginger?
Definitely so. Not as bad as last week, though. So that's the key to remember. We do have a wind cycle moving on through. It brought down the mercury. Remember, middle part of the work week, our temperatures were dancing near 100 degrees. But as advertised, temps today drew it down just a smidge. And a lot of that has to do with the cooler air just to the west of us. Now, this westerly wind is going to carry that cool air our direction, resulting in, yes, numbers that continue to come down. 95 your high from today, normal for us about 86 degrees. So certainly we continue to be on the manageable side, even with this little midweek warm up. Tonight, I've got mostly clear conditions, overnight lows down to about 61 degrees. But here's the kicker, and this is what I've been talking about all week. Be ready for a wind event on Friday into Saturday. In fact, this wind event has captured the attention of the National Weather Service. They've posted a high wind advisory for us. It actually goes into effect at 5 o'clock, so in about 20 minutes, and it goes through Saturday morning by 5 a.m. So it's very short-lived, but the potential, yeah, it's up there. We could get gusts up to 60 miles an hour. Again, this is all because of a cold front that's passing through to the north of us. Tomorrow, you're really going to feel that in the bottom line, and then by Sunday, things are going to calm down. But check out what happens on Monday. Increased clouds and temperatures definitely taking a nosedive. The reason for that, rain is moving into California. Will it head our direction? We're going to talk about that coming up in my complete forecast. Thalia.
Thank you, Ginger. Well, today is Earth Day, and it's being celebrated around the planet. More than 155 countries, including the United States and China, are planning to sign a landmark United Nations agreement on climate change. The Paris Agreement was negotiated at the Climate Change Summit in December of last year in the wake of the Paris terror attacks. It sets the goal of ridding the world of fossil fuel pollution this century and limit global warming. And here in the Coachella Valley, Sunline Transit Agency is marking the day with free rides. It also had a special commissioning of its new solar system installation of 888 solar panels. Sunline was one of the first agencies to pave the way for buses with low emissions and alternative fuels, and recently added long-range electric buses to its fleet.
Every day is Earth Day at Sunline based on our work in clean fuels, but we also have this really exciting solar project that is going to reduce our consumption of electricity by 33%, having that provided by solar. And Sunline has a goal to be at 100% at some point.
The Earth Day celebration also served as a showcase for environmentally friendly artwork created by Coachella Valley students. And at the Palm Springs Art Museum in Palm Desert tomorrow, free compost. The museum is proving the compost in conjunction with Whole Foods Market, providing that, along with several other activities that include mixing seeds, clay, and compost to create native seed bombs. It's a big day tomorrow, that's for sure.
It's really a chance for the community to come out and celebrate Earth Day with a few art activities, and also by really focusing on what they want to do to help save the Earth.
All of this will be at the Galen and Faye Sarkowski Sculpture Garden tomorrow, starting at 11 a.m. Coming up next, the race for the White House and what some are calling a kinder, gentler Donald Trump, maybe? And in Ohio, a suspect on the run considered armed and dangerous, the horrific discovery in one Ohio town.
You're watching KMIR News at 4:30 with Thalia Hayden and Chief Meteorologist Ginger Jeffries.
A developing story out of Ohio where police are investigating the death of at least 8 people. A spokesperson for Ohio's Bureau of Criminal Investigation says at least 2 children are among the dead. Officials say they were killed in what is described as execution-style killings in 4 locations. All of the victims shot in the head. There have been no arrests. Investigators say the killer is at large and should be considered armed and dangerous. Republicans held their spring meeting in Florida with a message of coming together. Still, the candidates left in the race are trying to stop Donald Trump to force a contested convention. Edward Lawrence has more from Washington.
And here's what I do. Now, my wife is constantly saying, darling, be more presidential.
Heading into the weekend, could we see a kinder, gentler Donald Trump? His new political advisors hope to strike a balance with his image to appeal to more voters.
I just like the fact that he's a no-nonsense guy. He says what it is. If people don't understand that, that's why they don't like him.
In Pennsylvania, Senator Ted Cruz called Trump a New York liberal whose campaign is now run by Washington insiders. He pointed to the transgender bathroom debate.
Donald Trump agreed with Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, and Donald Trump argued that grown men should be allowed to go into girls' restrooms.
While the GOP candidates crossed the mid-Atlantic looking for votes, the Republican establishment met in Florida. The RNC chairman told party members they cannot let Hillary Clinton continue the policies of President Obama.
It's not going to happen on our watch. It isn't going to happen because we're going to come together.
For Democrats, Senator Bernie Sanders continues to criticize Clinton. He says his voters are mostly under 45, and she's out of touch with the future.
She has got to begin to think about how she can reach out, what ideas these young people will respond to, and make that part of her platform.
Clinton blasted Republicans, saying she will run an election about issues, not insults, as she climbs towards the Democratic nomination. Hillary Clinton is in Pennsylvania campaigning today. 5 states on Tuesday will pick a candidate: Connecticut, Maryland, Rhode Island, Delaware, and Pennsylvania. In Washington, Edward Lawrence, NBC News.
Still ahead, President Obama is in England, where Queen Elizabeth is getting the royal treatment for her ongoing birthday celebration.
We're getting treated with plenty of sunshine out there right now. Temperatures, though, coming down courtesy of some wind. But our big weather story may be a storm headed our way next week. Details coming your way after the break.
And in tonight's stock market close, it was a mixed day on the big board. We'll be right back.
Ahead for us tonight, what investigators revealed late today about the death of Prince following an autopsy. President Obama ruffling feathers in the UK during a visit to London and weighing in on bathroom politics here at home. And there's news about some important changes to those popular reverse mortgages when we see you back here tonight.
The weekend is upon us, and Chief Meteorologist Ginger Jeffries is here to tell us if we're going to have some good weather this weekend.
It's the weekend.
Yeah.
Does it matter? Is it going to change anything?
No.
Are you going to come to work tomorrow, even if the weather's
That's a
bad?
good point, but
Okay.
it's still nice to have nice weather.
No doubt. And that's what we do best here in the desert, is provide you nice conditions. Hey, look outside. That's not bad. In fact, you can see Old Glory not moving around all that much. That means that wind machine has not started to crank it up, at least not yet. Now, we do have a wind advisory for all the areas you see in brown. We are looking for some very temperamental wind conditions over about the next 12 hours. This is really not a big wind event, and primarily, I think it's really going to impact along the I-10. Right now, Thousand Palms at only 4-mile-an-hour winds. That's pretty nice. But the rest of the valley, yeah, we're getting some double-digit gusts, strongest right now in Palm Springs at 20 miles an hour. But notice what happens, especially through the pass. Tonight, we've got those winds approaching 30 miles an hour. So that's why the National Weather Service putting out that advisory status. Notice it's not a warning. So a warning is a more severe weather element moving through. That's what we saw last week. So clearly, this wind event, while you need to be prepared and ready for it, it's just not going to be as ferocious. Now, we do have another active weather element coming our way by Monday. Follow along. Futurecast shows we've got some moisture moving on through, and it's going to bring some spotty showers, central and northern California, possibly dropping as low as San Luis Obispo. Then we clear out nicely on Sunday, but look what's lurking off the coastline. This is all cold air. As that cold air comes our direction, it's really going to get a response from our pressure gradient. So it's not this moisture in this area of low pressure that's affecting us, but as we take a deeper look, here's the buzzsaw that I think is going to bring some action around on Monday. In fact, this guy has a deep enough tail. You can see all the moisture right here, how low it is. Well, that could be a rainmaker for us Monday night. Don't cancel your plans. This is the kind of storm that's going to move through in 20 minutes and potentially bring around 16 raindrops. But again, it may change things up on Monday. Certainly, it's going to bring down the temperatures. Tomorrow, we should see the low 90s to the east end of the valley. Our official high, though, I'm going for numbers in the 80s. If you're traveling, okay, 72 tomorrow at the beach. A little bit of wind on Saturday, turning out nice by Sunday. Lake Arrowhead, some winds under partly cloudy skies on Saturday. Very nice in the mid-60s on Sunday. And Big Bear, gusty conditions on Saturday with temps in the mid-50s, but then shaking that off by Sunday and looking mild as numbers hit the upper 50s. So a spring potpourri for us. Upper 80s tomorrow, low 90s on Sunday. Big wind event on Monday. That's going to drop the numbers. Could even see some upper 70s to the east end. 20% chance of some showers overnight on Monday, clearing out nicely. But all that cold air is sticking around next week, so temperatures, look at this, hanging out below the normal range. Enjoy it. I am expecting this to be the last hurrah of mild numbers in the valley. Thalia.
Right, so that 100-degree day may be put off a little bit in Palm Springs. All right, thank you. Well, coming up next, President Obama in Great Britain celebrating the British monarch's milestone. And if you're away from a TV, no worries. You can watch KMIR News anywhere. Live newscasts in the palm of your hand. KMIR.com is always on. President Obama and the First Lady arrived at Windsor Castle today for a private lunch with Britain's Queen Elizabeth. She is celebrating her 90th birthday. Keir Simmons has more from Windsor.
This morning, the President and First Lady lunched with the Queen at Windsor Castle, where Thursday she celebrated her 90th birthday. Seeing the Queen, always an experience, says the American ambassador.
She knows that people are going to be nervous, even an ambassador.
Absolutely, and I was.
President Obama arrived in the UK Thursday night. In the past, royal etiquette has proved a challenge. In 2011, a timing error.
To Her Majesty, the Queen, for the vitality of the special relationship.
The president's toast competing with an orchestra.
And, in the words of Shakespeare,
while in 2009, the First Lady's arm around the British monarch, criticised by some. Then there was the time President Bush winked at Her Majesty.
She gave me a look that only a mother could give a child.
She has danced with President Ford and ridden horses with President Reagan. In total, the Queen has met 11 US leaders.
At the end of the briefing memo, it says, don't be intimidated by all these instructions. Really, in the moment, the Queen will make you feel incredibly welcome.
Tonight, the president will dine with the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, fresh from their stunning tour of India and Bhutan, and Prince Harry, who next month travels to the US, joining the First Lady for the Invictus Games, a televised competition raising money for injured veterans. Keir Simmons, NBC News, Windsor.
Coming up next, a look at some of the other stories making headlines at 4:30. Here's a look at other stories making headlines at 4:30. Nearly 100 hogs died after a big rig rolled over on a northern Kentucky highway. The driver of the sedan apparently tried to pass that big rig. That driver swerved and overcorrected. The trailer rolled and skidded to a stop. The rig was carrying the hogs to a slaughterhouse in Louisville. Nearly 80 Sears and Kmart stores will be closing across the country. Sears Holdings says it will close 10 Sears stores and 68 Kmart stores this summer. A couple of those are in California, but none here in the Coachella Valley. Carnival Corporation says it will sail from the U.S. to Cuba and back with all travelers, including Cuban-born passengers. The Fathom will operate week-long voyages to Cuba every other week starting May 1st. Officials say this is the first time in over 50 years that a cruise ship will sail between the U.S. and Cuba. And for the rest of the day's news, I'm going to turn it over to Gino.
All right, thank you, Thalia. An autopsy has been performed on Prince, but toxicology results are not in. The latest on that in tributes in his home state and here in the Coachella Valley. And weekend 2 of the Coachella Valley Music and Arts Festival, we'll look at the lengths that one young man took to see his dream band. Let's just say he's come a very long way.
And it's a gorgeous day today in the Coachella Valley. Friday is here. That means the weekend begins. What's going to happen weather-wise? We're going to talk about that. Plus, I've got your travelers forecast coming up in just a couple minutes.
Hello Valley, you're watching KMIR TV Palm Springs, where the news comes first. KMIR News starts now.
Good evening. This is the KMIR News at 5, streaming live at KMIR.com. I'm Gino Lamont. Janet Zapala has the night off. First on KMIR, an autopsy was performed today on Prince. The entertainer died yesterday at his home and music studio in Minnesota. He was 57 years old. Today, the medical examiner says toxicology results won't be available for several weeks. Also learned that paramedics were called to Paisley Park yesterday. It was the second time they've been called there in less than a week.
Staff members from Paisley Park had been unable to contact Prince yesterday morning and went to check on him. They found him unresponsive and called 911.
Prince performed in Atlanta last Thursday. On Friday, he was rushed to the hospital in Moline, Illinois for what was described as flu-like symptoms. Today, fans created a makeshift memorial outside his Paisley Park home. And across the country, cities are paying tribute with buildings and bridges flooded in purple lights. Today, President Obama spoke about Prince. The president's in Great Britain for Queen Elizabeth's 90th birthday celebration and talks with Prime Minister about Britain's future with the European Union.
It's a remarkable loss, and I'm staying at Winfield House, the U.S. Ambassador's residence. It so happens our ambassador has a turntable, and so this morning we played Purple Rain and Delirious just to get warmed up before we left the house for important bilateral meetings like this.
Prince's home state of Minnesota put one of his most talked about outfits on display, his famous Purple Rain suit. It's on public display at the Minnesota History Center in St. Paul. Prince wore it when he performed the hit song Purple Rain in the 1984 drama of the same name. He went on to receive an Oscar for Best Original Song score for Purple Rain back in 1985. Here at home, Prince will be remembered tonight with a purple dance party. The main attraction will be the Agua Caliente Casino Resort Spa, where our Kitty Alvarado is standing by with the latest on that. Kitty, good evening.
Good evening, Gino. And not only will there be a dance party here at Agua Caliente Casino Resort Spa, but they have set up a very special private tribute to the legendary Prince. Only our KMIR News viewers get to see this. Take a look. This is set up at the show. It's a signed guitar by Prince, and it is shrouded, of course, in purple light. so beautiful and so moving. When you walk in, it truly takes your breath away. And after this private tribute honoring the music of Prince here at the show, this guitar will go back up on display at the lounge, where they will have that dance party in honor of Prince, celebrating his music, his life, and that is called simply Purple. And that will kick off at 9 o'clock. You do not want to miss it. If you love Prince, you get to party like it's 1999. So put on your prettiest purple, call a friend, and come on down. Come early. There's a lot to see and do here, and there will be a lot more about Prince right here, and you can share with friends and dance the night away. The party will go until 1 o'clock. I hope you can come and see this guitar and dance the night away. Reporting live from Agua Caliente Casino Resort Spa, Kitty Alvarado, KMIR News.
All right, thank you, Kitty. All right, the weekend is here. Weekend 2 of Coachella is also here, so let's check in with KMIR News meteorologist Ginger Jeffries with the latest. Ginger.
And of course, this time last week, Coachella festival goers were dealing with quite a bit of wind. Tonight, yes, still some wind in the works, but not as bad as last week. In fact, today was gorgeous. Oh, I just love this shot sent in from Howell Castle in Palm Springs, showcasing Colony 29, one of my favorite places. And Susan says it was a lazy, hazy day out there today, all courtesy of a little bit of moisture coming into play, but also a little bit of haze kicked up from wind overhead. Right now, an abundance of cool air off the coastline, numbers in the 60s overhead. We're still pulling down 93 degrees. So yes, definitely we're still above the normal range, but temperatures continue to trend closer and closer to where they should be this time of the year, in the mid 80s. And that's all because of the culprit known as windy weather. We've got mostly clear skies out there tonight. Overnight lows down to 61 degrees. Wind, it's going to be temperamental. Remember, we have that high wind advisory. Last week it was a high wind warning, which is a much more severe weather alert. Tonight, the wind potential is southwest winds 25 to 35 miles an hour with gusts of up to 60 miles an hour. And this wind advisory just took effect at 5 o'clock. This will expire tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. So it's very short-lived, but I think it is going to have a big impact. What happens tomorrow, temperatures coming down, but because of the strong wind, we're weakening this high pressure barrier overhead, and that's actually going to set the stage for what's coming around by Monday. Yes, you saw those temperatures correctly. 80 degrees toward the latter part of April. That is extraordinary. Yes, a storm is coming in next week. That means calm conditions on Sunday. We're going to talk all about that, including your traveler's forecast coming up in just a couple of minutes. Gino.
All right, thank you, Ginger. Weekend 2 of the Coachella Valley Music and Arts Festival is underway, and that means traffic. People are coming in from all over the world. But Julie Bueller's live for us tonight in India with a story of a man whose trip is, well, let's say longer than most. Julie.
It's true, and we know the lengthy lines and all that traffic kind of indicates that the Coachella fan, well, they're a devoted bunch and they do come from all over the world. But what about fans that are particularly excited about Guns N' Roses, a band that hasn't been on stage together for some 23 years? Well, one man's journey took him hitchhiking across Europe and America, all in search of what he calls Paradise City.
Because every car I get on, I always have to figure out who the driver is. I have to get the feeling that they're a genuine person. The good thing is, most people in the world are genuine people.
Easy to say after hitchhiking through Europe.
In Europe, I've been in Bulgaria, Serbia, Hungary, Slovakia, Czech Republic, Germany, and Denmark.
And America.
New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, a bit of West Virginia, Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and now I'm here in California.
Zandman began his journey for one reason, to see the Guns N' Roses reunion, something he admits he never thought would happen.
You know that stupid dream you had when you were 16 that was so stupid you were embarrassed to even mention it out loud? Well, this is mine and it's coming true.
I always had this feeling that I was born in the wrong decade. I wasn't there for the golden age, 87 through 93, the big tours, the time when they were the biggest band in the world.
Sure, he could have caught a flight from Israel to the U.S., but Zandman says the hitchhiking offered the chance to see America in a whole new light.
This has been my dream for 10 years to see the reunion. It is, the whole adventure is just to build it up more.
And he's documented the trip on his YouTube channel.
Well, welcome to America. All right. I think that's enough for today. I'll find a place to sleep now.
And while the trip hasn't always been comfortable, Zandman says it has been rewarding, especially hearing what other, quote, stupid dreams are.
What's a stupid dream that you have?
Do what you're doing. Travel around the world.
Make art.
Make art.
My name is Mario Castañeda. I live in New Mexico, USA, and I'm just proud I could help Tom on his journey to the west.
The Agua Caliente tribe heard Zandman's story and put him up in a suite at their 4-diamond hotel for the night. And after a restful evening in a bed, Zandman was back on the side of the road, heading to Coachella campgrounds and his dream becoming a reality. And of course, this Saturday, Zandman will see Guns N' Roses on stage. He has his Coachella pass. He's still hoping to meet the band. And if you'd like to see more of his adventures, and there's many, many videos of him crossing across Europe and America, you can find them on YouTube at Hitchhiking to Paradise City. And Gino, I have to ask, in spirit of his adventure, what's your big stupid dream? Mine is to play linebacker in the NFL. Live in Indio, I'm Julie Bueller, KMIR News.
Julie, I'm living the dream right now. Thank you so much. All right, still ahead, a little dog with a history of biting people gets a second chance. We'll tell you about that. And we're remembering a man whose business was music, and more importantly, he was instrumental in helping other musicians and kids. We'll tell you all about that coming up.
You're watching KMIR News at 5 with Gina Lamont, Janet Zapola, and Chief Meteorologist Ginger Jeffries.
A longtime Palm Desert business owner and musician has died at the age of 60. Randy Hewitson owned Musicians Outlet for decades and helped shape the local music scene. KMIR's Angela Monroe has the story.
Flowers are appearing as a tribute outside Musicians Outlet in Palm Desert. Randy Hewitson opened the store nearly 30 years ago. His son posted on Facebook that his father died this morning. Described by friends as a great guitar player, Randy was heavily influential in the local music scene.
He was loved by everybody. Everybody knew Randy. In fact, last year when Musicians Outlet burnt down, we held a benefit party for him.
Last year, the community rallied behind Randy because he always rallied behind them.
He had a making of music organization that he donated $30,000 of musical equipment to schools.
He supported music in schools, helped the local music community, and would lend a hand to a friend.
He loaned me an amp for free. That's the kind of guy he was. He would go out of his way. He would do extra stuff. And he was just really a good guy.
Online, the tributes keep pouring in. Friends, fans, and families sharing their stories and love as they mourn the passing of a pillar of the local community. In Palm Desert, Angela Monroe, KMIR News.
A follow-up to a lawsuit involving Palm Springs Mayor Rob Moon. His former campaign consultant, James Freeman, claimed Moon owed him $19,000 for his services. Moon countersued. Today, we reached out to the mayor, and he said that both sides agreed to dismiss all claims and have parted on good terms. And an update now on Whiskey, the dog that bit a little girl in Desert Hot Springs a couple of weeks ago. The little girl is doing okay, and Whiskey has been transferred from quarantine in Thousand Palms to a professional behavior team that hopes to rehabilitate the dog and help her work through her aggressive behavior. Coming up next, having a plan to get through the long Coachella weekend? Well, we'll tell you about a so-called rehab on wheels. We'll explain.
We've got a little bit of wind to talk about tonight, and that could be the precursor for a storm next week. I'll explain why. Coming up, my complete forecast.
But first, in tonight's stock market close, the Dow up slightly today. The Nasdaq, though, down 40. The Standard & Poor basically flat. All right, the weekend is here, so let's check in with Ginger and see what's going on. Ginger.
We do have a wind advisory that's now in effect for the Coachella Valley. Winds are going to be very temperamental as we've got some cool air moving through to the north of us. That wind advisory for all the areas you see in brown right now. Current conditions, hey, this isn't bad. Low 90s as mentioned this week. The wind was going to start shaving down our daytime highs. For the most part, we're getting some single-digit sustained winds, but we're already seeing those winds pop up, especially around the mouth of the pass right now. Palm Palm Springs has 24-mile-an-hour wind gusts, and that's really what I'm looking for. Stronger winds around the mouth of the pass and along the I-10. This is not going to be like last weekend. The wind duration is going to be very short-lived. By tomorrow morning, our winds are under 10 miles an hour, and then the advisory expires. That cooler air is going to settle in, but as far as any moisture, that's all staying to the north. Now, the bigger impact from this wind event isn't necessarily for the next 48 hours, but I think it's really going to impact what's developing off the coastline. Here's our storm moving on shore right now. It's the next storm. Here we go. Nice area of low pressure, very deep tail, and a lot of moisture. It's this guy coming our direction on Monday that has an opportunity to give us some showers late night on Monday. I think the bigger impact will be a stronger wind event and cooler conditions. Again, that's how we're going to start off next week. For this weekend, if you're traveling, hey, get ready for a little bit of wind in the morning at the beaches. Otherwise, temperatures on the nice side. I'm calling for the low 70s. In Lake Arrowhead, that's looking nice. Wind on Saturday. Nobody can get away from the wind, but it's turning out really nice by Sunday. Temps in the mid 60s. Big Bear, partly cloudy skies and gusty conditions. Temps in the modest 50s, warming up to the upper 50s on Sunday. But here in the Coachella Valley, we are going to enjoy a nice little temperature break tomorrow. Our numbers are going to be stretching, in the upper 80s and low 90s. All in all, pretty manageable for us this time of the year. I've got about 88 in Palm Springs through the pass, low to mid 80s in High Desert, 84 in Joshua Tree. But this is a game changer for us on Monday. Lots of cold air blasting our way. Get ready for some partly cloudy skies, 20% chance of late night showers, but temperatures definitely collapsing. Gino, we've lived here a couple of decades. Have you seen temperatures this mild for the latter part of April?
April? No, not that I recall, and certainly not in the recent years.
Yes,
We've been well into triple digits by Coachella time.
No doubt, and it looks really nice for Stagecoach and weekend 2 of Coachella.
Wow. All right, thank you, Ginger.
You bet.
Hey, speaking of Coachella, for all you hipsters headed out there, you'll be out in the sun. It's going to be hot, and you're going to need to rehydrate. Well, we've got a way you can do it. It's called, the business is called Resurrection Rehab, and it provides hydration packages that include the replacement of vital nutrients.
A basic bag of lactated ringers, which is hospital fluid, which will balance with your body composition. The biggest request would be for the Zofran and the Toradol and the vitamin B combination, because when you've been partying too much, you haven't drank enough water, you're throwing up, you just want everything to stop and you want to be able to continue to party.
Okay, well, I'm not sure that's great, but all right. In short, for those of you who are partying too much, this is one way to get through the headache and body aches that you so richly deserve and make it through the rest of your Coachella weekend. Coming up next, another city is taking up whether or not it wants to be part of the much debated CV link. And today is Earth Day. We'll show you how the Coachella Valley is celebrating terra firma. The city of Indian Wells is apparently drawing a line over the CV link and putting it on the ballots. This comes a week after voters in Rancho Mirage rejected the hiking and biking path. KMIR is very busy. Kitty Alvarado has that story.
Just a week after voters in Rancho Mirage rejected the CV link in a series of ballot measures, the city council in Indian Wells voted 4-1 to put the multi-city 50-mile path on November's ballot.
This project is so huge and so costly that the voting residents of Indian Wells should have their voice heard now and in the future.
This despite the Coachella Valley Association of Governments asking the council to wait until the environmental study was done to decide.
That analysis will show which fast-paced and potentially dangerous roadway CV Link users are likely to take if there is not a safe and continuous route. Holding off on voting on a ballot measure today does not restrict you from taking on this idea at a later date. The deadline to qualify for the November ballot is not until August 12th.
People we spoke with who live in Indian Wells say they're glad they get to have a say whether or not the $100 million path for pedestrians, cyclists, and low-speed electric vehicles should go through their city.
I think it's a very great decision that they have made because it's an expense that is a very great expense, and I think that people should have a vote on it.
Let the people decide. And even myself, I have to think a lot about it before, but I want to be able to vote.
Government shouldn't have to make decisions, or shouldn't make decisions on a lot of things. I think it should be up to the people.
In Indian Wells, Kitty Alvarado, KMIR News.
Today is Earth Day, and more than 155 countries are planning to sign the United Nations Agreement on Climate Change. It was negotiated at the Climate Change Summit in Paris in December. It sets a goal of ridding the world of fossil fuel pollution sometime this century. Here in the Coachella Valley, Sunline Transit Agency is marking the day with free rides. It also had a special commissioning of a new solar system installation of 888 solar panels. Sunline uses buses with low emissions and alternative fuels and recently added long-range electric buses to their fleet. And at the Palm Springs Museum in Palm Desert, tomorrow is Free Compost Day. The museum is proving the compost in conjunction with Whole Foods markets, along with several other activities that includes mixing seeds, clay, and compost to create native seed bombs. All of this will be at the Galen and Faye Sarkowski Sculpture Garden tomorrow, and that composting begins at 11 a.m. And what's not fun about compost? Coming up next, another look at today's top stories. Here's a recap of our top stories at 5. An autopsy was performed today on Prince. Medical examiner says toxicology results are pending. Prince died yesterday at the age of 57. A longtime Palm Desert business owner and musician has died at the age of 60. Randy Hewitson owned Musicians Outlet for decades and helped shape the local music scene. That's going to do it for us. We're back here in 30 minutes. We'll see you then.